everyone, this is Anris. I'm a senior product designer and design consultant. And recently, I was chatting with someone from LinkedIn, and I was surprised that someone reached out to me there and asked me a question if I could share something that would be talking about how do you advance your career if you've already been hired in a certain company, and how do you improve your portfolio, for example. So in this video, what we're going to tackle are like tips that I felt that were very useful for me in my own design journey. And I'll begin with tackling the things that we'll be talking about in this video. First, we're going to talk about the landscape of the UX UI industry. That also includes product design. Then we're going to talk about the foundational skills that you need to have, and also the skills that you need to keep growing as you stay in this career. The next thing we want to do is create a really good portfolio, or if you already have one, how can you keep updating that? And then how do you start networking? So networking is very important in your UX UI product design career. Finally, how do you find a mentor? So mentorship is also something key. I have a few resources that I'd like to share that I recently got from me attending career support events. Then this is something that you'd want to ask yourself. What are your goals? How do you want to get to where you want to be, and why do you want to get there? Finally, you want to keep seeking and asking for feedback. How can you use this skill that we all have in UX UI and apply it to yourself into your own career? Lastly, I'd talk about the ladder. So there's many levels to a UX UI or product design career, but it differs between company to company. I will share with you a resource that was also very helpful in trying to understand that. So I'm going to be talking a lot more about my own experience as I go along. One thing that I'd like to highlight is UX UI or product design is a field that you would need to keep learning and learning, just because there's so many new things coming along every single year, or not just a year. There's so many changes so far, like AR, there's VR, there's AI, and a few years from now may look completely different from what it is currently. So if you are in this field and you want to get ahead, you really need to put in the time to keep learning new things. This is coming from me having talked to a lot of people in the industry. Right now, there is a tech recession. There's hiring freezes. People who used to have a lot of budget before are now kind of tightening their purse strings. It's harder to get in compared to a few years back. And I've seen a couple of articles. So one of them I think was from UXTI, and they crafted a report around the state of UX in the next few years, and it seems like it's trending positive. The people that they interviewed said that they're thinking UX will be hiring a lot more people. They're expecting to get more resources around this area. I don't really want to call people resources, but that's what they are, and which is good. But right now, from all of the people that I have talked to, there's a few companies that are growing, and then there's a few that are actively trying to. So there's a lot of layoffs going on, and hiring is very difficult. And the other difficult thing too is sometimes when you apply, maybe in the past you're able to gather feedback of what we're doing right or you're doing wrong. But nowadays, I think it can be a little touchy, just because you can get sued if you provide feedback to someone that's going through this hiring process. And I wanted to highlight this just because some people like myself get frustrated when I don't get that feedback, and I just have to accept that that's okay. It's up to the hiring managers and also the HR team to see if they want to provide you that feedback, and if they do, you just have to be very thankful that they're pointing you in the right direction. Some of the emerging trends in the UX industry right now, so all of you already know the hype around AI. Everyone's trying to brand their new feature with AI tools. Everyone's trying to come up with bots and processes and workflows that wrap around the idea of AI, because it is really a powerful tool, but it's in its infancy, so it's not perfect. It can also be a big security risk in that sense. But I would encourage people to try and learn how to use this in your own process, because it's a big time saver. It has helped me a lot in particular. So when I'm creating my portfolio, when I'm doing my research, So some of my research tools have like a summarizing tool that summarizes all of the information. And obviously it's not going to be perfect, but it allows me to save a lot of time because it highlights insights that I may never have thought to highlight because I could be a biased researcher. And then there's like templates that you can use. You could also have prompts, lists of prompts that help you kind of dig deep into the idea or the insight that you want to get to. So using AI for high level research, even like understanding the persona that you're trying to talk to build up to, AI is really good at that. What I don't think it's not that good yet is coming up with mock-ups and maybe even like interviews. I haven't seen anything that will replace us in that matter, but who knows, in just a few years maybe we'll all just be teams of ones using all of these different AI tools. Who knows? Some of the other trends actually have been there for quite some time. So I'm seeing a lot of glassmorphism, for example, is a style that I'm seeing now. Minimalism is still there, like, but I don't really pay attention to these trends because it comes and goes. I would focus more on like emerging technologies that are becoming more popular. I wouldn't say that VR is an emerging technology, but because Apple has recently released its own version of the VR headset, then I think there's going to be more attention to that compared to before. Before it was only really used for gaming, but I think there's a lot to come in that area. There's also augmented reality. So I don't have any background in augmented reality, but I have played a lot of like VR games in the past. So mostly Beat Saber though, just because that's the one I enjoyed the most. But like, I haven't tried Apple's, and I don't know if I want to, just because those headsets are very heavy, and I don't think I want to clasp something on my head around for like 8 hours straight or whatever. Even though it's really good, so I'm still hoping that tech kind of becomes better. Another thing that maybe you should be paying attention to is like the ethics of design. So as you grow into your career, you'll realize that designers have a way of like shaping the world, in the sense that we are leaders in this space. And like tech, for example, the decisions that we make as designers will definitely affect our users. And if your user base is like 1 billion people, then you have a lot of responsibility in your hands. So you have to be asking yourself, is this the right thing to do? Because it is the right thing to do to keep asking yourself that question. I talked about the trends, and now I want to talk about some of the tools that you might find handy. So obviously Figma is still king. I believe that every designer out there who hasn't tried Figma yet, maybe you should try Figma. I'm not sponsored in any way, but I've tried multiple tools. Like I've tried Sketch, Envision, Adobe XD, and so far I've been really happy with the way Figma has helped this industry a lot, and prototyping is so much easier. It almost feels like the real thing nowadays. You could also do a lot of motion and animations in there. This is very important, especially if you're starting out or you're an individual contributor and you're usually creating a lot of UI. But in some specialized companies, sometimes you don't even have to pay attention to this as much, but it is a core skill that I feel like, especially if you're starting out, that you need to learn. Aside from that, there's always like, your regular tools. Like you need to be able to talk into a camera, to talk to the person that you're doing research with. So practice your skills in talking and communication. That's always key. Try and figure out like ways of working so that you can simplify your process a bit faster. So maybe using templates, and then using a script to guide yourself whenever you're having conversations is especially useful for usability tests and interviews. I would like to highlight that since design tools are always changing, it'd be great if you keep doing that. There is another Figma config conference that is happening quite soon, so I'm hoping that some other people attended if you just missed that announcement. I think it's going to happen in a few days from now. I think from June 26th to the 27th. And I'm quite excited to see what they have. They're going to be touching on very interesting topics there. I would also hope that, it is part of our job to make sure that we're always advocating for best practices. And it can be very difficult if you don't have the support for this, but try and find other peers that support you in this manner, like looking up something online if you're working on a new feature. Is it cheating? Like, use the internet. There's like so much information out there. There's like research repositories, like Baymard Institute, for example, is some place that I usually go to for e-commerce. There's NNG for like tips and tricks and like how to do research. There's also like a lot of books available out there. So I used to have an O'Reilly subscription, and they have a lot of wonderful books around design that you could get through a subscription if you have like learning credit, or you could just buy those books. They tend to be a bit more expensive though. And you could also go to LinkedIn. So I'm learning a lot in LinkedIn nowadays because people have been posting a lot of their insights. It's summarized by chunk formats. So thank you to all the people who have been doing that. It's always nicer to keep digesting information from people who have done their research. Okay, so I've talked about a lot of the tools and the things that are happening, the trends, and like maybe what things that you have to be watching out for. Now I want to talk about like the foundational skills in order to get here. So anyone can be a UX UI designer, like a product designer. You can call yourself that even though you don't have that title. Maybe you've done it before in your current job, whatever. But there's a lot of foundational skills in UX. And I always say that if you call yourself a UX designer but you're not doing research, then that is not UX. I got it from UXDI. So you can't just build something out of the blue unless you already have like a huge experience that that suggests that you really know the problem area or the space. So having like really good research skills is a must, especially if you're a generalist or you're the only person in the team that can do like the work. So a beginner book that I'd suggest you trying to pursue is like the UX Researcher Team of One, I believe. It's called the User Experience Team of One, a research and design survival guide. So that book has been helpful when I was starting out because it explained to me what are the things that I need to do in order to support a team, and I'm the only one there. I also want you to think about like in terms of your core skills. So the usability test is one, being able to summarize research is another. How do you talk to and collaborate with different members of your team? That's an ongoing skill. So there's a lot of soft skills involved in becoming a UX UI designer. And the soft skill actually matter more, especially once you start climbing up the ladder of UX UI. Early on, maybe you're just creating a lot of mock-ups and then trying to validate the test. Maybe you're a little slower because like you don't know how to navigate like how to talk to different stakeholders in your company, how to get buy-in for your ideas. That will come in time. So you just have to keep practicing, keep reading. There's no like quick fix into getting better at this craft. You just have to keep doing it. But there are ways where you can speed up the process. One is like reading up a lot, learning a lot, and applying what you learn. Because like there's this almost like procrastination involved in learning a lot of things. So you could be learning so many courses and finishing all of them, but if you're not applying that knowledge, if you're reading a lot of books but you're not able to practice those skills, you might not be able to use them at all in your job. I would heavily encourage that if you're looking to get into UX and you do not have a case study yet, that you try and get a case study. Make sure that you highlight that it is a figurative case study if that's the case. And also maybe try and getting a client that is free, for example. That is also another way to get something on your website. So you don't really need a portfolio website. It's just that that's always been my approach. I just found that there's there's a bit more impact when I'm using my name. So my portfolio is like ann-reyes.com, and that's my name, and it's a lot easier to remember it. Whereas if I put my portfolio in Behance, for example, or another portfolio hosting website, I don't have as much control on how I want to present it. But this is kind of like an advanced skill that you'll need to learn. But there are a lot of tools out there, like web design tools that are like drag and drop, like Wix. I'm using Weebly just because it was cheaper before, and now it's getting more expensive. There's also GoDaddy. GoDaddy has like once you buy their domain, you'll be able to create a website too. And so there's so many tools that you can use in order to have your own website and have the control to present it. Or you could also just have a presentation or a PDF document that you just send out. Okay, so because there's a lot of things to learn in UX, it's like you can go very deep and very wide in this skill set. There's been a lot of like resources available online. So it depends on what you're looking for. If it's like a soft skill like storytelling, there are places out there. There are people out there in LinkedIn that share courses. There's also like tried and tested course websites, like I would list some at the top of my head. So these tend to be more expensive. There's NNG, and they charge an astronomically high price, but you get a lot of value in a very short amount of time for their training. There's also UXDI, which is like sometimes it could take from 6 months to one year. I was able to finish mine in just 3 months. And they now offer different types of training for your specific field. And then there's Interaction Design Foundation, there's Career Foundry. And if you just type UX training in Google, you'll find so many. So you just have to see what you need and see your budget, because obviously there are also free ways in learning. There is one person in YouTube that I recommend to everyone. That's VA Experience. So he has like these short videos where he discusses a couple of things, and I've always found that really helpful. There's also, and this kind of touches on another topic, which is mentorship. So there's a lot of like websites like ADP List where you could get mentorship and coaching for free. So I haven't tried that, but I want to try that myself. All right, so we tackled a lot. Now I'm going to talk about portfolios in particular. This is my portfolio, and it's not the best. Like, I'm not that happy with it, but it is there, it's out there. So I have my name, and I'm a full stack product designer. And then it shows you the projects that I worked on, illustrations and branding that I've worked on, the events that I was part of in the past. So, and then I have like a bunch of recommendations from different types of people and a little blurb about myself at the bottom. Then I have a section for all of the case studies that I have in particular. So I have my UX case studies. I've picked like the best ones, and then I have like a collection for the other things that I'm very good at. So I have digital art, traditional art, and then there's also like events. So I've been asked a question: how do you know what to include in your portfolio? So when I'm applying, sometimes I create like a subdomain under my main domain, or like I create a particular page, because you can do that if you have a website. I select the most relevant case studies, and I send that as in my application, just so they don't have to go through each and every single one of these case studies trying to find out what would be relevant to their particular brand or their company. I have like the UI for some of the stuff that I worked on, but obviously I feel like I have too much content here, and I want to change that. It's difficult to say because I don't have as much experience in looking at portfolios in general. But you do want, like, so some of the things that you want to pay attention to in your portfolio is one, it should be visually appealing. Just because something is functional doesn't mean that you can't you could decide not to pay attention to the aesthetics of it. You are being hired as a designer, so you should be able to come up with like a really appealing design. Next thing would be how responsive is it? Like, is it responsive enough that if you resize the screen, that everything will still work? So I made it a point that when I was designing it, I was always resizing my screen and testing it out for like different sizes. So I also paid attention to the storytelling. So as you can see, I could have just said like repackaging check front, but then I wanted a catchy title that, you know, if you were looking at it for the first time, maybe you have an idea of what this thing is talking about. And then I also have categories. So this one I could further optimize it, maybe in making the categories clickable. So if you wanted to just look at all design ops related case studies, then it, you know, you would see all of the case studies related to this particular category. And then what I do is I look at other portfolios. So I have like a list that I've been creating in Obsidian and also Notion of like all the portfolios that I like, and try to copy elements from each and every one of those. So a portfolio can take a very long time to create. So one tip that I would suggest is keep it simple. What is the easiest way where you can build your portfolio? Is it just by creating a presentation? Making sure that you've gathered all the information in your current work. So having that in one place is also a good idea. So you want to make sure that you also check everything. So check for spelling, for grammar, for formatting, because paying attention to detail is just like table stakes right now. You don't want to look like you're very sloppy, and you know, there's like less brownie points if you've missed a period in one section or another. But it also doesn't like completely hurt your chances of getting interviewed. And the one thing that I'd suggest doing is do some mock-up interviews with people. Try to present your portfolio so there's like a difference between the portfolio presentation and your actual portfolio website. So you could have more animations and more graphics and less text in the actual portfolio presentation versus the one that you have on your website, because usually that one has more information. Try to not be as text heavy as I am. So I did some of my case studies. I put all the content in one day and then edit it another day. So it's like I wanted it out there and I didn't want it to take too much time. So that was my first attempt, and I just kept iterating on it. So it's not my best work, but at the very least I have something out there, and it helped me kind of put myself into the position where I'm already starting to apply for jobs, but put a deadline, because I feel like it could be very easy to procrastinate on this thing. I know I've procrastinated in my portfolio for a very long time. It's important to have like the process of like how you got through like one decision, like what are the challenges that you face and whatnot. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Like if you've struggled and it like went into a spaghetti loop or whatever, you can show that in your portfolio, because many times it's kind of like this cookie cutter approach where the methodology is so straightforward, but it's rarely like that. So I think it's okay to have a little bit of nuance, and like you pivoted at one point or the other. I think that's something that I would be interested, or maybe a hiring manager would be interested in seeing, because I've looked up a lot of like YouTube videos talking about portfolios, and this is usually their comment, especially for people just coming out of a boot camp. It all looks the same. So what can you do to stand out and make it look better? That will be your competitive edge. All right, now let's talk about mentorship. So in the past few years in my career, I feel like in my first job, I didn't have a mentor. So I didn't feel like I was growing. I didn't know what to do. I was just doing whatever it is that I wanted to do at that time. That was like when I was employed in Al Najma Stationery. Then the next place that I was in, it was called Expo Trade. I did have a mentor. I did have someone who guided me through and like what needs to be done. And really, they don't have to call themselves mentor for them to be your mentor. So a mentor could just be someone that gives you advice on what to do in life and career. It doesn't have to be someone that is older than you. It could be someone that's younger than you who's very good at an aspect of a skill that you may not have and you want to learn. And you don't just go up to someone and ask, "Can you be my mentor?" or something like that. I feel like I've tried that before and I don't think it really worked. I mean, it worked for some people, but it felt very awkward to ask it. But I would just befriend people and then, strike up conversations from time to time. And then if they like you, if they see something in you that maybe reminds themselves of their previous self, or like you jive with each other, it'll be a big use in your career. Like it'll a boost rather, not big use, but like it will help you kind of grow faster than you normally would if you were just yourself and you weren't relying on anyone else's feedback. I've had a couple of mentors when I was feeling down and I didn't know what to do. I would reach out to these people, actively encourage you to start looking for people that you can, have a coffee chat with, have one-on-ones with in your own company. See if they're interested in telling you tips and tricks of like what they've done if they were at your stage in their career. So I've recently been told to sign up for ADP list, but I'm pretty sure there's like more mentee sites out there. Some of them are paid. I've been told that it's not always a good idea to go through a paid subscription model for mentorship. Maybe it works, especially if you're trying to build your own business and you can't find someone who would offer their services for free. But normally, mentorship is free. And I think coaching is the one that is not as free. So I've had opportunities where I paid for a career coach. I paid for other people in my family to get one in the past, and I don't know if they got help out of it, but it allowed me to understand where do I want to go and what do I want to pursue. Like what kind of life do I want to live? That kind of thing is very helpful. So for me, I would happily mentor anyone else who would reach out to me if I still have time. So feel free to ask me questions in the comments or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm just there right now. I'm still looking for a job, but I'm also freelancing. I have a wealth of experience, over 12 years, and I can tell you a lot of things, not just in design, but also life in general. Even like if you're looking to go to Canada, for example, or Dubai, what was that experience like? I'd be happy to chat. In terms of career goals, like you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Do you really want to climb up the ladder? Or do you want to get hired in a big company? I haven't. I don't have experience in getting hired by a fan company, so I don't know. I can't help you in that, unfortunately. But if it's just like short-term and long-term goal planning, I have experience in that. So maybe short-term goal, you just want to get in UX, or you just want to get promoted. You have to kind of visualize what that is and sort of set key steps that you'll need to do in order to get to that state. Is it like, do you feel like you value flexibility? So if flexibility is your thing, then maybe you should look for a job or like approach your manager or your company and say that you want this. This is something that you can do. Or maybe you want to be able to travel around the world. So there's many companies right now that are letting their employees do that. Like my previous company allowed that as well. Like I've seen some people working in different parts of the world and that was totally fine. Like some people even were away for like several months and then just came back after quite some time. So you just need to figure out if that's okay. And you have the security policies in place to support that, because obviously it could be dangerous if any information that's very important to the company gets leaked or hacked. Then there's also like when do you want to work and how do you want to work? So do you want to work on site, remote? Do you want to work by yourself, or do you want to be a people manager? because there's like two ways, and that kind of touches on to another topic, which is like the career ladder. And I'll share a bunch of sites that I've gone through just to give you an example of where to expect that. So this is kind of the time where I'm going to ask you to maybe pause this video and think, where do you want to be in your life? Why are you in UX? What do you want from UX? Is this something you're really passionate about, or do you really just like it for the money? Because everyone needs money to survive, let's face it. And it's a very lucrative career, but I don't think that you'll be happy if that's all you want from this job, because it pays well. So I feel like you'll last a lot more if there is something more intrinsic that you value that keeps you in this industry. So think about that. Okay, so for me, my short-term goal for UX UI is to just get hired again to a full-time job and to sort of keep growing my clients in my freelance work. So I've been messaging some of the people I know in LinkedIn, for example, just because like I need the money, and I also want to keep gaining experience. And part of that short-term goal is to keep posting. My long-term goal for this industry is to become a leader in this space, and I feel like I'll be able to get that if I just keep going at it. If I keep sharing my insights online, I feel like I will attract the same type of people and meet more people, which I feel like is already happening. Just reaching out to people have helped me meet a lot more people in this space. So I'm very happy around that aspect. The next thing that I want to tackle is like how to seek feedback. So I've mentioned it in the past that design is a discipline where you always need to be constantly asking for feedback. So it may hurt, especially if you're new, to get constructive criticism. It may also hurt to be told something that your design kind of feels like your baby. So you could get defensive when someone points out a problem and you don't know how to handle that. Something that has helped me overcome that feeling of like I'm getting attacked is the idea that if this person hasn't highlighted this information to me, then I wouldn't have known and I wouldn't have been able to improve. So I always solicit feedback, and over time, just because I've dealt with a lot of people, that feedback has been very helpful to me in improving my work. But there are also times when you have to know if the person that's giving you feedback is not feedback at all. It's just like very rude and aggressive criticism. So you need to learn how to manage that, and also say that, I'm not gonna stand for this, or not in this word, but like we could just talk later. If you feel that the person talking to you is highly emotional, try reading the books Radical Candor and Negotiating. Negotiating is a very good skill to use, and it just comes over time. So it's still something that I'm actively developing. I'm not the best at it, but because I've had interactions with so many people who have given me feedback, and I've given feedback to multiple times to different sorts of people. Feedback is not just criticizing someone's work, it's also praising someone for a good job that they've done. So I think not enough people are doing that. So you really want to practice this as well, because a lot of people will appreciate it. Like being able to message someone privately if you're shy is also good, because like it helps boost morale in the team. Now let's talk about climbing the career ladder. So this is levels FYI, and like you could type your location there, and I would put Canada, for example, and it'll give you an idea of like the total compensation that you could expect from a product designer. And I'd say that these websites are not often accurate, just because if you go to Glassdoor, if you go to Indeed, if you go to LinkedIn, if like you get a hang of what is ideal based on the number of job applications that are currently out there. And the biggest companies typically have a very high pay range. the job responsibilities that you have for a product designer level 0, let's say, or a junior product designer is um, is not comparable to a product designer from another company. So I would suggest to do your own research on that aspect. Something that I would like to highlight is that getting ahead doesn't always just have to be in the space in the country that you're in. So one tip that I've always carried with me is, where do you want to go? Where will you be happiest at? And think about, like, do some research around the area and like how much they're getting paid and the cost of living, for example. So if I look at USD values for the pay for engineering in particular, the median pay in San Francisco is super high compared to some other places. So I'm trying to look for Canada here, and I don't even see it. And so if you're living, let's say I was from the Philippines, I knew that if I was gonna be employed here, it will take me a lot of time to actually get the salary that I wanted. It was not doable, so I left for Dubai. And in Dubai, I also knew that I couldn't stay here for long, or there. I couldn't stay there for long because there's no citizenship. So I tried to figure out, okay, where do I want to go next? And that's how I landed in Canada. So, for example, this is like median pay in Canada. There's Abu Dhabi. So they're kind of close to each other. And there's there's always a pro and con to every city, but it would be the best way to increase your salary is to go to a city that pays well, to go to a country that pays well and gives you the benefits that you need. If that's not an option, then you could also try job hopping. So, not ideal, but it is the truth. Typically, if you job hop every 8 to 2 years, then you have a higher salary compared to the people who've stayed in one position for like 7 to 12 or 15 years or so. It's just a sad reality that loyalty does not pay, because companies can let go of their employees easily. And I'm not saying all. I know that there are companies there that are actively trying to make sure that every single one of their employees stay with them for the longest time, because retention and loyalty is it's something that businesses really want and need for their own companies. But there are a lot of advantages in moving from one place to the other, and one of them is like a salary bump. In terms of like career ladders, so you could do your own research, but there's like many websites. So UX Design Institute talks about like the different titles and the different specialties that you can expect to see. So there's a UX designer title, there's UX manager, UX researcher. This one, this page and a lot of other similar pages would tell you like what the job responsibilities are, and if any one of them calls out to you, then maybe you should pursue them. This is the one that I really want, like UX strategies, because like I like working on the strategic part of the business. But this is also a previous title. A product designer is like all encompassing from the business goals, from every phase of the design process. It's just a lot more responsibilities, and you're kind of dealing with like all of the other skill sets. I wouldn't say it's that much different from a UX designer, but I feel like there's been a lot of conversations in like, what is UX versus product design. I don't really want to get into that right now. I do want to talk about levels, FYI. So you can compare salary levels from like the different so this is software engineering. I would probably go for their product designer. So product designer will have different levels for each role. So in, let's say, Microsoft, you have salary estimates. I don't know how accurate these are, but at least they'll give you an idea of how much more you can get from the bigger companies. So let's say I want to compare how much does Electronic Arts pay. So they pay much, much lower compared to, let's say, if I were to get employed in Shopify. And these are from the US. So I don't know if there's a way for me to change the location. I can't find it. But like, do your research just to make sure that when you're negotiating for a salary, you're getting fair pay. Just note that each company will pay you less. So product designer for Microsoft, 149 average, but EA is like 63. So your level 1 is 93. So this is just not compared to like your first level in Microsoft. Okay, so this is another one that's called UXL. So it talks about all the different designer career paths that you can take. So the last thing I want to talk about is like, you're already inside the job and you're trying to get ahead. You don't want to hop jobs. You just want to stay there. So what do you do? So I'm not an expert on this, and it's not a skill that I've actively practiced. It was just something that a mentor of mine was really good at. So I can only talk to you about what she's done to help me get my own promotion. So if you're not job hopping and you really just want to get promoted in your own company, this is the thing that has worked for me. So trying to prepare a list of achievements that you've made in the past few months or year or so, and then using that as ammunition in order to apply for that promotion. You also want to talk to HR and other people, maybe in leadership, to understand what is the process for nominating someone or trying to ask for a promotion. There may be a more formalized process. If there is none, then you could schedule a meeting with your boss or your manager trying to ask for this. So I've negotiated a salary hike a couple of times in the past by doing this. So I've highlighted all of my achievements, and I've told them that, you know, I've already met all of these expectations and I feel that I deserve a raise. And if you give this, I will be prepared to do whatever it is that you want to achieve next. So maybe you could tie it into like a project or an outcome that the business wants, just to show them that you are ready and you're capable. Try to position it in such a way that it benefits the company, not just you. And I think that conversation will be a lot easier. And if it's not you making that call, maybe it's your manager, then you should have like an open communication with this person as well. Try and see like the pitch that they're going to prepare for either HR or the other executives in order to give you that promotion. And if it doesn't work, then it could be a couple of things. So normally you don't want to ask for a promotion if the company business is not doing well. Like, make sure that something good has happened. You don't want to go into that conversation when something bad has really happened. Like if someone just came out of a really bad meeting and you can see in their emotions and their face that they're not ready to talk, then you could always reschedule. You want to catch the person that you want to talk to when they're feeling good. I think that's part of a negotiation tactic. And also just keep having these conversations, because you'll never know when. And if you know that there is no room for growth, so if you know that, let's say, the next promotion that is available is like taking the place of the current manager, just be ready for that, because like maybe that's like you gearing for a position that will mean someone else is going to have to leave, for example. And be prepared to kind of figure out what are your plans if you realize that there is no room for growth. Are you going to start looking for a job, or are you going to be happy in your current state? So, oftentimes, there are a variety of factors where people get passed over for promotions. It's often the people who advocate for themselves are very loud and very aggressive around the things that they're doing that get promoted. And sometimes the skills that you have for a manager, sometimes the skills that you have that make you a very good individual contributor is not the same skills needed for a manager. So the more that you climb in the leadership aspect, the more that you need to learn how to become a leader. And becoming a leader is more about like listening, learning when and how to scale, how to grow people's strengths, how to, delegate, how to unblock them, how to handle operations in such a way that it supports your team, how to protect your team when things are rough, how to protect your team from maybe unjust requests, like how to put processes in place so that there is more integration for your design team, for example. Strategies that drive business growth, not just like creating screens and working on project after project, looking at the holistic picture, maybe even thinking of OKRs, is more of like a people management the more you go up that route. Whereas if you're an individual contributor, you just need to be communicative within your own team. You should be able to mentor the people below you. So being like top of having access to like all the different insights that are coming up in the industry and applying the things that you're learning in your day-to-day, finding ways into how your business can save things. And there are multiple resources available out there for you to figure out like where you want to go. I'm still figuring it myself. Like, I really enjoy strategy. I like being an individual contributor, but I also like the management aspect. I like being able to mentor people, and I'm figuring things out. So hopefully this was helpful for you. It was also very helpful for me to just look up every single thing again and try to talk about my own experience around it. Everyone might have a different experience. So again, I'm just prefacing that this is what has helped me, this is what has worked for me. And if I'm wrong and this does not match what you currently have, then feel free to let me know in the comments. Like, tell me about your own experience. Was it like, if you found this useful, then great, that is my mission. Like that, and it makes me happy that I'm able to help other people. And yeah, thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of these videos.